Hi everyone. So it is about 7 p.m. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Matt Alexander. I am a ChE ambassador from the Davis School of Chemical Engineering. I am a junior, so I'm an upperclassman. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce the other two ambassadors that are here with us today, and then we're going to give you a PowerPoint presentation, and then at the end of the slideshow, when we do questions, your TA is going to put up the QR code so that you can make sure that you signed in and you get credit for coming here. Okay, sounds good. So other than being a ChE ambassador, I am also the committee head for philanthropy committee for the American Institute of Chemical Engineering. Philanthropy does some outreach events actually within the community of Lafayette and Greater Lafayette. So if you really are thinking about joining ChE, even as freshmen, we also are, you're also able to be a member when you're a freshman as well, just to kind of get the feel of the school and some of the students that are in it as well. So Kendra?
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Kendra, and I'm a senior. And just a little bit about me, I guess I'm involved in the Women in Engineering program on campus, and also AKE as well, like Madison. And that's just what I'm involved in on campus, but yeah. If Abby wants to introduce herself.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hi, my name's Abby. I'm a junior in chemical engineering. Like Maddie and Kendra, I'm also an AKE, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but we have little AKE shirts. It's a really good club to be a part of. I joined it my freshman year just to kind of get acquainted with ChE. So if you're interested, you can apply and join in January. It's a fun time. Besides that, I'm also involved in Women in Engineering, so that's awesome too. I guess something a little interesting that you might not think of is that I have a double major, which I guess kind of makes it unique. So I'm double majoring in communication. So don't let this kind of ChE curriculum kind of limit you. I was able to add on that extra major, and so far it's working out. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, great, thanks. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So can everyone, someone, whoever, just pop on and say that they can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
Perfect, thanks so much. All right, so a little bit of intro about the Davis School of Chemical Engineering. So why do you want to be in Purdue Chemical Engineering, right? So for one, it's exciting, okay? It's rewarding. And it's impactful. So the reasons that I joined, oh, and we're everywhere, you know? So the reasons that I joined ChE was because in high school, I'd said, I'd taken a couple chemistry courses, I'd taken math courses, I really liked learning how to build things. So I thought, I really like chemistry, and I really like learning how things are built, right? How they kind of work. So when I found out that Purdue had a chemical engineering program, I was like, great, awesome. But going in as a freshman, I didn't really understand the kind of depth that the school actually gives you, the amount of connections and the environment that they actually have. So ChEs are actually one of the most broad engineering concentrations that is here at Purdue. Within chemical engineering, and especially within the school, you can make so many different connections and not really even know it. We have professors who, which I will get to in a few slides, we have professors who actually have been within industry and within research as well. So almost all of our professors have some sort of industry background, and if they don't, then they definitely have been within some sort of research field. So these are a little bit about our some of the leadership positions in our undergraduate program. Dr. Sanjay Kim, he is a sweetheart. He is the director. He's the director of the chemical engineering school. So he's like the top-notch guy. And then Dr. David Cordy, he is the professor of chemical engineering and the director of our undergraduate studies. So he also teaches some classes, which you won't have until you get probably up into your upperclassmen classes. And then Carissa Regersdorf, Karen Morgan, and Alan Riegel, they are all of our ChE advisors. They're all real sweethearts. They really try to make sure that you have everything that you need to be successful within ChE. And then Sandy Hendricks is an amazing woman. She takes care of everything in the undergraduate office that the advisors cannot do themselves. All right. And then if Abby wants to take over.
Sorry, I realized I was muted. Never mind. Okay, so this is really kind of like a snapshot of everything that we kind of have in the program, a lot of statistics. So there's close to 600 total students. I'd say like per grade, there's like 150-ish. It's a pretty even division between men and women. Like I know some engineering majors are like very heavily male, or I think there's even a few that are like very heavily female, but ChE is pretty even. Most of us are from the US, but we have a significant international population also. Like I mentioned before, AICHE is a really big organization with ChE, so there's that. There's also OXE, which is a different organization. I know a lot of people that are a part of both. So there's a lot of organizations that are like grouped with your major, and so that really helps. As far as kind of these other things on the right side, we've got like a lot of people like tend to do pretty well in the classes. It's pretty rigorous coursework, but like there's a lot of help, a lot of good opportunities to like go to office hours, TAs. There's a lot of like study groups things that's really big in our major. There's some research opportunities. I know quite a few people who are involved in research here. The professors are always looking for more undergrads to join their team. And then like co-ops and internships are pretty big, I'd say. So with co-ops, like you add another year to your education, but like you get some of that hands-on experience with different companies. So that's, I don't know if it's as big with our major, but I'm sure like it's really, really helpful. And then for internships, like that's like really kind of a really important part to get kind of that hands-on experience with different companies and then study abroad. Like I know a couple people who are trying to do that. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but yeah, so there's a lot of different countries you can go to. Okay, so we have like a short kind of outline of the major parts of our curriculum. So there's like the main chemical engineering major, like main classes. So you can see them in like the 200, 300, 400. Those are the different seminar classes that we have. So every year you have like a seminar class where it's kind of instructed by the advisors, and sometimes it's not really like curriculum heavy, like you're not learning like a lot about chemistry. It's just kind of like a check-in with the advisors, and they have different projects about career development. So your sophomore seminar is in the fall, junior seminars then in the spring of your junior year, and the senior seminars in your fall of your senior year. And then so like sophomore year, you'd take the major ChE classes are 205, 211. So the main thing about 205, it's highlighted in red. That's the only class you have to get at least a C in. All the others you have to have at least a C minus. So that's one thing. You have the option to take 205 as a freshman. So if like you're really interested in ChE and you've taken, I think you have to take at least 131 or 133, and then you can take 205 to kind of get ahead. That's always a good idea. Let's see. So like right now as a junior, I'm taking stage separation processes and where's the other one? Momentum transfer. So some of these are a little out of order as far as like you might take a 300 level class as a sophomore, but this is kind of the main classes you take as a ChE major. And then something that we also have is like this additional STEM curriculum. So you have to take a biology course. Something interesting about these like chem selectives is that you have Orgo, 2 semesters of organic chemistry, and then you have physical chemistry. They're in the chemistry department, but like ChE has a special section. So in general, the only other students that would be in 261, 262, or 370 are going to be other ChE majors. Now, of course, if that doesn't quite work out in your schedule, you have the option to take like the chemistry major version. But we kind of have our own course for that. And then, of course, like the other math selectives that you have to take for all your other engineering classes. I know, so for ChE, you have to take 241. I know some majors you take 272, but we do 241. And then they're just like the general education selectives. You have to have a humanities credit, a behavioral social science, kind of the main things that every major has to do. But yeah. Okay. So there's plenty of ways to enhance your degree. One of them is study abroad. Now, kind of given the current like post-COVID environment we're in, I'm not really sure when that would happen or how that's going to happen, but I know like a lot of people try to do it as chemies. I know a couple people who've gone to South America, like Ecuador, or like Spain and Europe. So there's a lot of different countries you can go to. Those credits can either count toward your technical electives, your general electives, and then ChE, like as a department, has their own study abroad program. So they'll have like a Maymester program. I think every year they go to a different country and have a few classes. So that would be like part of it would be either a technical selective or part of your ChE, like one of your core classes. And then you're also free to take department study abroad from a bunch of different schools. So like if civil has a class you really want to go take, you can go do that, and that'll count for your tech selective or like for mechanical engineering. So you can kind of pick from all those different lists, and you should find a way for it to count at least for some type of credit toward your ChE major. So like I said, there's summer programs, there's spring break trips. Kind of depends on what you want to get out of study abroad. I think I'm trying to look into like I'm doing a Maymester, but they have a lot of different options in plenty of different countries. So there's a lot to choose from for that.
So a little bit about another option you could do in the ChE department is getting involved in undergraduate research. You can always try it out either during the summer or during the semesters, and during the semesters you can take it for credit to get it count as a ChE elective for your classes. And you really just get to work with the professors. You can get involved even as a freshman. Just reach out to the professors through their emails, which are on the ChE website, and you can also view their research topics that they have and see which one interests you more. I've had previous experience as an undergraduate research in the catalysis lab over the summer, so that was one of my research experiences. So I highly recommend that you all can try it out as well. And another option that you should definitely get involved in is work experience. So you have two different routes that you can take. You can do more of the traditional internship over the summer, or you can try out co-ops, which is basically you would work a semester and then come back to campus for another semester just for classes and continue that rotation for either 3 terms or 5 terms. And a lot of big companies do that, such as the ones you can see on the slide right now. And it's a great way you can just make money while you're going to classes. So you can pay off your college debt early. And also a lot of people who go through co-op can usually have a full-time offer right after graduation. So that's a great route as well. And so some of the things that you can get into as a chemical engineer include consumer products, petroleum, food and beverage, the energy environment, biotech and pharmaceuticals, as well as high performance materials. So as you can see, there's like a wide variety of applications for chemies in industries. And the first,
I'm actually going to expand a little bit. So when you think of chemical engineering, right, you think chemicals, you think building things. So you think like, wow, like I'm going to be like making a new cereal for like General Mills or something, or I'm going to be making like a new drug to help like diabetic people or something. That's not really what chemies do. So chemies make sure that for every box of Kraft mac and cheese you have, the cheese that's in that box is the same for every mac and cheese box for like 20,000 boxes, right? So we make sure that we regulate and we make sure that we regulate the processes that we're doing. Okay, so that either tends to, in petroleum, we make sure that we can pump 1,000 gallons of fluid through this pipe and the pipe isn't going to burst. Or for consumer products, we make sure that, like for Pampers, like that diaper comes out the same way every single time. Or for energy and environment, we make sure that like the coatings that go on windmills are going to stay that way for the next 20 years so that the windmill doesn't break down. So that's kind of something that you have to think about as well when you want to enroll, because you will have to enroll and apply to get into the school. That's something you have to think about that you're doing. So you're not actually like, unless you go into like R&D chemical engineering, that's when you can work for a company, and that's when you can try to, like, they'll give you a project and you'll try to figure out some new way of doing it, but you'll be working on the process of some new product that they're doing or some new idea. You won't be physically making the product yourself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so just one of the industries include consumer products. So like Madison said, a lot of it is based on the process. So emphasizing like how you produce these different consumer products, especially for like Kimberly Clark producing diapers, just like the process of mass producing that and how to do it efficiently and optimizing those processes are really what chemical engineers focus on. Another big company in consumer products might be Clorox. They hire a lot of chemies as well, just going in for process engineering and along those lines. And another industry is the petroleum industry, which a lot of people might know, associate with chemical engineering with. And we're really involved in just the processing and refinery of oil, and planning out the transportation of these chemicals to make sure there aren't like hazardous oil spills into the environment, and making sure that we can contain anything that could potentially break out into a big accident like sometimes you've heard in the news. And the next industry is food and beverage. So you can go into a couple different routes in this industry. I know some chemies go more towards quality control, which is also really big, like Madison pointed out, making sure the quality of your products are always consistent, especially in food and beverage. That's really important, and the food safety aspect of it. You can go more towards development and design, which is more towards R&D, and then also obviously project and process engineering and planning out how you're gonna make sure the capital projects work out for a specific product line. And the next one, I guess, is energy and environment industry. This one, a lot of research on campus for Purdue, they also reach into this, but I'm not as familiar, so hopefully Madison can find out some more stuff.
Yeah, sorry guys. So energy and environment is actually pretty interesting. I personally have a concentration in energy and environment, which we will get to the concentrations within ChE curriculum in just a couple more slides. So energy and environment is all about, like, you are trying to anticipate like a natural disaster happening. So like the windmill example that I gave you earlier, like the coatings for that has to do with energy and environment within chemical engineering. So you are creating a coating that will cover the entire windmill so that that windmill will be able to last for like 20 something years. It's a lot more than that. That's just a number off the top of my head. So that coating will stay there and it will prevent any hazardous energy and environment stuff from happening, right? So this is also another field that you can get into a lot with research. I know that the professor that is mentioned here on the slide, Dr. Al Wang, converted polypropylene pellets into like an energy source. Into oil using distillation. So then you can use that to create some sort of like fuel source, which is a lot of what chemies do, is they use energy and environment to create separate types of fuel. So like this either goes into like biofuels, this goes into like clean high mileage fuel that you kind of see. This goes into like electric cars for like Tesla. That's what the energy and environment aspect of ChE goes into. Okay, so now we're going to talk about biotech. Biotech is actually pretty interesting. We have a lot of research that goes along with this at Purdue as well. Several multi-million-dollar labs and within ChE itself. So biotechnology is something that you can get into as a ChE when you really like biology and you don't want to become a biomedical engineer. So a lot of what chemies have to do with bioreactors. They're used for growing any kind of bacteria that are in a lot of medicines that are pharmaceutically like engineered. But first, a chemical engineer has to genetically engineer that bacteria in a bioreactor to send it to the pharmaceutical companies and other kind of biological processes like that as well. Eli Lilly is a major company that does biotechnology as well. Okay, so high performance materials. This is an industry that is less profound within ChE. I don't personally know a lot of people who go into high performance materials, but it's not like unheard of. Like it's still a very like popular field as well, or else it would not be on the slide. So high technology materials are used for electric, homes, and industry. So this is like the microchips that are like in your phone. Like a chemical engineer like made sure that that microchip was going to be the same in your phone and it wasn't going to blow your phone up. Or like when you see like iPhones, when you like hold them under your pillow, when the iPhone ends up like blowing up or is on fire, that's because that nano chip inside it was not engineered precisely. So a chemical engineer or someone who else down the line probably didn't do their job very well. Actually, here, hold on. My AirPod's about to die. Sorry, guys. Okay. So the next topic is the top hiring companies for chemies. So I myself had an internship this summer. It was not, unfortunately, with any of these companies on this slide, but Honeywell, P&G, Tate & Lyle, they are huge companies that really, really, really like to see chemies. Like especially if you graduate and you start that undergrad job and you graduate, you've got, you know, not as long as you graduate, honestly, with a Purdue degree in chemical engineering, any company will be like dying to have you. All these companies that are like major multi-million-dollar corporations love to see Purdue chemies because they know how hard we work, they know how much we put into our work, and they know like the amount of success that we have. And the average starting salary for a so like an average starting salary basically means like you graduate and it's within that first year of the first time you ever work in industry, and it's roughly about $75,000. So that's pretty good as a 22, 23-year-old coming straight out of college. All right, and it looks like that is about the end of our presentation. I'm going to stop screen sharing right now, and then your TA will be able to go ahead and put your QR code up onto the screen so that you guys can snap a picture and make sure that you get your credit for it. Does anyone have any questions right now for myself, Kendra, or Abby? Okay, so I see a, okay. Why don't, let me see. All right, so I am going to, thank you for Kendra and Abby for answering questions within the chat while I was presenting. I'm going to start with Sam Alsted. So his question was, is it harder to find jobs in R&D? So from my personal experience, I know that within R&D as a chemical engineer, you will most likely have to go into graduate school. It is very hard for entry-level R&D programs to accept non-PhD grads. So if you were looking to go into more grad schooling, that would probably be the best way that you'd be able to find an R&D job. Kendra or Abby, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's impossible to get an R&D position, but like they're definitely a lot more competitive because there's fewer programs that would accept someone with just the undergrad degree. So yeah, I mean, like, don't totally put it out of the question, but in general, like she said, it's going to take a little bit more effort.
Yeah, and I think also it depends on what industry you're looking into. I know like sometimes for the food manufacturing companies, the R&D position like requirements might be a little bit lower than like if you were going into specialty chemicals. Just for food manufacturing, they might base it more on your experience in the food industry. So
Very true. Okay, so the next question is, what attracted you guys most to chemical engineering? So myself, I was attracted by it just because, like, honest to God, like I was an incoming freshman and I thought it was all about like learning about how to like make new things with like chemistry, which that's not all the way it's about. Like it is very heavy chemistry based. But once I actually started taking my first class and like going to all these EYMs that I took, I was actually in 161 and 162 my freshman year. So I took the honors version of engineering. So we actually had to do a project on the different kinds of engineering that we wanted to do. And learning about how the ChE field was so broad really attracted it to me because I felt like I had the freedom to go into any kind of field that I wanted. I wasn't just restricted to any certain type of field.
I think what attracted me was that like she said, there's just a huge variety of things you can do. I went to like a presentation like this my freshman year, and like I think they talked about like there was an alumni who worked at P&G and started talking about how like I make shampoo better, and that just like blew my mind that an engineer could work on something that like was tangible and I could walk through the grocery store and just be like, wow, like I helped make that better. So yeah, I mean, don't like feel totally discouraged like you don't know what to do yet. That's totally fine. Like I was in your shoes 2 years ago. I think also another perk, or well, I see it as a perk, is that I was not a huge fan of MATLAB, and some of you either are starting to work with it or you will next semester. We don't really use MATLAB in coding that much. I mean, you can, but like it's not as required as for some of the other majors. So I think of it as a perk. Maybe some people don't, but I kind of like that aspect too. But yeah, so the variety is great, and no coding. So
yeah, I would have to say I have very similar reasons. Basically, just the wide applications for ChE. You can go into any industry, and there are a lot of jobs out there. And then also, there's not a lot of coding in ChE, and that made a big influence on my choice as well.
All right, so I see you guys have a lot of questions. I am loving that. I can only scroll so fast in the chat. So if I don't get to your question today, I'm sorry. I'm really going to try to though, so we're going to go fast. Okay, so the next question is, can you talk more about the concentrations within an engineering major? So within ChE itself, I don't know about the other concentrations, about the other engineering majors, but ChE has concentrations where it's kind of like a supplement to your degree. So within you taking your like ChE courses, your ChE core courses, you have to take all your selectives, you have to do all that other stuff, other mumbo jumbo, you know, to get that piece of paper that says you did it, you know, for 4 years. I am taking extra classes to kind of supplement my degree to say like, yeah, I took all these classes and I also did this extra work to show you that like I really am passionate about what I'm doing. So my energy and environment concentration, there's also 5 different concentrations in ChE. So you can do polymers, you can do energy and environment, you can do biotech, you can do consumers. There's consumer and then there's like high performance, I think. I'm pretty sure that's all of them.
I think they just added data science, I think.
Oh, they just add data science. Yeah. Yes, they also added data science to that as well. So you can get a concentration in any of those 6 topics, and then you'll take extra courses within your ChE courses and all your other selectives to get that concentration. So I personally think that it's like something really good to have, because once you start taking, and especially like once you start taking your classes, and especially if you have any other internships, like if you have any internships, you have any other like industry experience, you'll kind of start to know what you want and what kind of like you're passionate about and what you really like. So after my 205 course, which is the sophomore fall course that I took, it's the first ChE course that you'll ever take, I kind of realized is I wanted to go more into energy and environment. And then I don't know, Kendra or Abby, if you have any other concentrations as well. No? Okay, cool. Do you have anything else to add on concentrations? Okay, good. Okay. All right. So how does ChE differ from MSE in terms of what is learned and typical jobs? So this is interesting. So chemical engineering and material science engineering, while they are similar, they're also a little bit different. So material science engineering, from what I understand, you'll take like a piece of dirt, right? Or like a piece of rock, and you'll like analyze like what all is in there, and you'll understand like how the processes happen to make that like concrete and stuff like that. Whereas ChE will just like try to understand like the flow of how that concrete like went from the tube down on the ground, hardened, and then how long it will harden. Basically, is kind of what ChE does. That wasn't a really great explanation, so I apologize to Noah. Yeah, Kendra, Abby, do you have anything more specific?
I took like an MSc course, I think my freshman year, just because like I was thinking about doing MSc also. And something I realized that actually like the MSc professor told me is pretty much a chemical engineer can be a materials engineer, and you can kind of get that like specialization, but it doesn't go the other way around. So that's part of the reason I actually chose ChE, because I mean, it's kind of like the square versus rectangle concept. Like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square. So like a ChE could do what a material science engineer could do,
Yeah.
kind of like on a broader scale, and then like, but it doesn't work the other way. So I'd say like MSc is much more microscopic and like hyper focused on the materials, and ChE is kind of more of a broader macroscopic view of things. Hopefully that helps.
I think that's it. That was way better than what I said. All right. Oh, we also have the link is not authorized. Here, wait. Can you guys see the QR code now? Somebody, you guys can just text it in the chat. That's fine. I'll scroll all the way down. Is the QR code working for everyone? Okay, yes, it's worked for me. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. All right, so let me scroll back to our questions. Okay, we answered that one. Can you describe in more detail what you learn in some of the higher level classes? For example, the stage separation process class. Wow. Wow, you're really going after my heart there, guy or gal or non, whatever. Sorry. Okay, so stage separation is a course about how basically you are going to be analyzing how processes work within industry. So for instance, right now what Abby and I are studying is we are going through different kind of distillation columns, which is a piece of equipment where we are analyzing the kinds of material that goes into the column, and then how that material like flows and how it is changed from a vapor to liquid stage throughout the column, and then what is the composition and the flow rates of it coming out. That's kind of like a really, really, really basic form of what we're doing, right? So this is really, really helpful, and you have to know these things, especially if you're going into industry, and even if you are going into something like research or if you're going to grad school, because this is a process that's used almost everywhere throughout ChE. Like even if you're going to like consumer products, you know, like the raw material has to come from somewhere and it has to get separated out into something, you know. So the higher level classes will actually teach you more relevant material to ChE specifically. So you're starting to get those like specific like chemical engineering skills that you'll need when you graduate. Abby? Kendra?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I think I've noticed like the farther I get into the chemie major, like the more and more I can see where it's going to apply to industry. So like SEPs is a great example. You'll learn there's a lot of like slang terms I guess we use for classes. So like
Yeah, there's a lot of slang.
Yeah, like that's really easily applicable. I think like right now we're also in like fluid mechanics, or I think they call it like momentum transfer, but there's a lot of different names for classes, but like you start to see how they can really apply to a lot of different industries.
Yeah, and something that you're also going to see as well is that when you get to your higher level classes, you're going to see how all your underclassmen classes start to connect, which I know you're going to take some courses that you may not like, and you're going to think, all right, I just took it, it's out of my back of my mind now, but it does come back to haunt you later in life. But that's okay, because, you know, it's all, you'll relearn it. It's not a bad thing. Kendra, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess just like eventually also you have senior lab and senior design, which is also something you'll be able to use all the knowledge you accumulated in your previous classes and do some hands-on experiences with using a distillation column or like extracting lactose from milk. So just more of an application of what you've learned eventually senior year.
Okay. All right, so this is a little bit of a longer question. So if there is a chemie concentration that can be translated into a different engineering major, for example, doing materials engineering versus the high performance materials concentration in chemie, is it better to pursue that major if we want to do more in terms of product development R&D?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question. Yeah. To Becca, good job. You stumped us. What I would say is, I mean, I'm a spokesperson for chemie, so I'm always going to say chemie every time. But in real honesty, though, like if you are wanting to do product development for R&D, I would generally say that like going the chemie route for product development, even just like chemie route for R&D, can lead you to a lot more possibilities than probably going material science. Like Abby said, it's kind of like the square rectangle, you know, like if you end up like taking material science and like doing product development and R&D, like you're only going to be allowed to do like XYZ in that field. Whereas like if you took chemie but you got a concentration in the high performance materials, then you would also have the skills to do like A through Z plus, you know, being really, really, really like skilled in, you know, XYZ. Do you know what I'm kind of saying? So I think that would be the better path that I would follow. Again, if you go to the material science EYM or whatever they do and you're like, wow, like this is like exactly what I want to do, and you know exactly what you want to do as a freshman, then like go for it. But yeah. Nothing to add?
No, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Do a lot of people go onto grad school, and how important is it / how much of an impact? How much of an impact does it make? A lot of people that I know go on to grad school. Chemie is also kind of special because I know a lot of people who majored, who like got their degree in chemical engineering, but then they went to go to med school to become doctors, you know? So like chemie is one of those to where like you can learn about all these like chemicals and like industry like skills, but you can also go on to grad school to go to like law school. You can go actually to go to like your PhD in like chemie. You can go to grad school to get like for R&D. You can go to med school to go be something, like you go to be a doctor. You could go to be like a researcher within the medical field. So I think the importance and the impact of it is just knowing what you want and how you want to make out of it. I think that's the advice that I would give you. Kendra and Abby.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's just like um, the graduate, whether or not graduate school is for you, it's kind of like what kind of career path you want to take necessarily. There are a lot of chemis that just go directly into work and they're in like supply chain or operations and manufacturing. So you don't necessarily have to have a graduate degree for those.
Yeah, and also another thing that I have found is that if you do want to go to grad school, you can also go to grad school for like multiple things. I know that Purdue ChE actually has a master's program that you can do during your undergrad. So one of my really close friends actually started her master's program during her senior year, and she only had an extra semester after she graduated. So she finished her master's and her bachelor's degree within a year and a half, or within 4.5 years. So that is also something that, like, if you don't want to go for the PhD, but you want to get a master's in like you want to get like an MBA, or you want to go into something like management, but you want that chemical engineering degree, but you want to go into like engineering management, like that's also something that you can do, which I've heard is like, if that's the way you want to go like later in life, I've heard that's really impactful. How hard is it to get into chemical engineering from FYE? I would generally say, like, as long as you, I mean, all engineering disciplines, like, are not, how do I phrase this? All engineering disciplines are very competitive, right? But there are more that are competitive than others. So chemical engineering is one to where it's like, as long as you have we have a GPA minimum of a 3.2. But I know that if there is a chance that the spots are like left open, so like for when I was in FYE, we only had like 150 people or something, like only like 200 people like apply, but the class size was like 250. So like, as long as you weren't a horrible applicant, then like there was a 50-50 chance that you would like get in. Like there was a pretty good chance that you would get in. So hard impact, I guess, would just be like, make sure that you're like not failing any classes. Don't do that. But yeah, Abby, Kendra, do you kind of have more? I don't really know like a good way to like describe hard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the GPA requirement is the biggest thing I can think of, but like that shouldn't be too hard, I think, to achieve. But it's not like super competitive. I think pretty much, yeah, like you said, like anyone I think who applied to the ChE program during our year pretty much got in. I don't remember hearing of anybody who
I know there was a couple that did not get in though.
Oh.
I know of a few who did not. So like, don't just take that. So like, if we tell you like, oh yeah, no, like you'll be fine. Like if there's like 50 people left, like you're definitely gonna get in. Like, as long, like, make sure that you're a good applicant and you're not like I'm pretty sure there was like essay questions that we had to fill out too. Do you remember that, Abby? I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah,
like,
that sounds right. As part of like your T2M thing, you had to write like why you wanted to do that major. So, I mean, put your best foot forward.
Yeah, just try is all we can really say.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard to find a job in the energy section and the petroleum section of ChE? I would like to clarify hard again. So depending on what section of energy and depending on what section of petroleum, and especially what company you're applying for, that can depend on how hard it is. So if you are a ChE who just graduated and has no prior industry experience and you're trying to apply for a chemical engineering job for one of the top petroleum companies in the world, then it may be more difficult for you to get an entry-level job without those industry experiences. Same thing for the energy. It really does depend on what companies you want and how much experience you have before applying. That's like a really basic answer. But yeah. Anything to add?
I think you covered it.
Okay, yeah. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Purdue chemies get jobs pretty much like as soon as they graduate, but it just depends on what field you're going into, is like the success rate of the companies that like you are getting hired for, I guess. Would you recommend a combined ChE and MBA 5-year program for someone who is passionate about engineering and business? Like I said earlier about the MBA program that Purdue has, if you are really wanting to do engineering and you're also wanting to do like something business-wise, but you want to stay within that ChE aspect, I definitely think that would probably be something that you could look more into. Having an MBA and having an engineering degree, especially within ChE, is really helpful, because if you know that you don't want to be working in industry and you don't want to be working like in the field or in R&D, you know you want to go towards the business side, it opens up a lot more of doors for you. I think personally, but yeah. Kendra, Allie, good. Okay. So I see that people are leaving, so I'm gonna answer a couple more of these like more recent ones. I'm sorry if you were waiting and I did not answer your question. I just want to get to these people who. Okay, so I'm going to answer. Oh, you're welcome for all the ones who are leaving. I'm glad you were able to come, and I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that you all apply. If you're freshmen now, hopefully I will see you around Forney next year. Okay, so I'm gonna answer, we have about 13 minutes left, so we'll answer a couple more questions. How many chem classes are normally included within the ChE curriculum? So on the slides that we have, you usually take about, especially when you get up to your underclass, your upperclassmen, you usually take between anywhere from like 2 to 3 chemical engineering courses within a semester. I know during your sophomore year, it's usually about 1 or 2 within that time, but then as you get up, you take like 2 hard ChE core classes, and then your others are just selectives.
I think quite a few people asked about the difference between bio and ChE. I think I saw like at least 3 people that asked that question. So, I mean, they're similar. I think ChE has like a concentration in the bio stuff. So kind of similar to the concept that we had with the material science. Like kind of like we said before, chemical engineering is more broad. So like you can do more things with it. So yeah, those were actually my top 3. I was thinking either materials, ChE, or bio, and I picked ChE because it's a lot, like I could do all those things and kind of have a broad representation of all those different fields. So I think that like the largest difference is kind of similar to what we said before. Obviously, I think like chemical engineers deal more with the chemistry side of things. Biological engineers deal more with biology. But like there's a lot of opportunities if you wanted to kind of focus on that, like bioengineering side of things, like you know, with like the food processing, food science. We have to take a bio selective anyway, so like you'll still get to take some bio courses. And I think there's a concentration for that. I might be wrong, but so there's opportunities for that too. Hopefully that answers all those questions.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this other question. So it said, if you are ahead and on track to graduate early, can you take the senior seminar earlier than your senior year and classes like that? Kendra?
I would suggest asking the advisor for that. I know like senior seminars only offered fall semesters, so you would have to take it like, if you were trying to take it earlier, it would have to be like fall junior year. Like you couldn't take it in the spring semester, so you'll have to watch out for like when they actually offer those seminar courses.
Yeah, and sometimes, most of the time actually, only one section of a course, especially for your higher up classes, will only be taught. And it'll only be taught during one semester. So I know like for like some of the classes that me and Abby are taking, like there's only one class for it, and the professor will only teach it. The professor that we have now will only teach it during the fall. And then if you wanted to, like say you failed the course, and you had to retake it, because there's also a lot of courses to where like if you do not get a C or better, like a C minus or better in your chemical engineering course, you technically fail it. So you cannot go on to any other chemi courses without retaking that course and passing it again. So I know for like Chemi 320, which is our statistical class that we have to take, they have a course that you could take in the fall, but it's like a different period of time, you know. And then they also have different courses for like co-ops as well. So when like co-ops are on like their off years, like if you can get into like a co-op class, which I don't know if they really do that, then that's also something that you can think about. But it'd be pretty hard to take your senior seminar before fall of senior year. Like you would really have to be like ahead, which sometimes can be hard, which I don't even know if that's physically possible during chemi, because I don't think that's physically possible, because the earliest you could take your 205, which is the fall sophomore class, like your intro class, is the spring semester of your freshman year, and you have to complete either 131 or 161 beforehand and have a entering GPA of like a 3.2 to get into that course. So that would only put you a semester ahead, which means you would be graduating within that fall of, what year are you guys? 2020. So you'd be graduating in the fall of 2024, right? That's how that works? Yeah, 2024. Yeah, instead of that spring. So you'd only be a semester ahead. Yay! Okay, so this question is, how can we get involved in chemi-related activities right now? That is a great question, Preston. I'm glad you asked. Okay, so us three are actually spokespeople for the American Institute of Chemical Engineers as well. Unfortunately, we do not have any OXE ambassadors here or Chemi SAC, but how you can get involved right now. So actually, if you get on Google and you look up Purdue AICHE, you can actually sign up to be on our email list like right now. So our email list will tell you like what events we're having. So unfortunately with COVID, it's not going to be the full glory that AICHE usually is, but we still have a lot of virtual events. We do have some in-person events. We have all member meetings once a month, to where like if you wanted to see some like familiar faces, or if you wanted to meet our executive board is there every month, right? You can go there and you can kind of see more about that. And then yeah, Abby just put the website in the chat as well. That'll tell you a little bit about us. We love freshmen. We actually have a committee designed to kind of get this kind of feedback from you guys. It's called Outreach. They do specific events with freshmen and with upperclassmen to try to get you to know a little bit more about chemical engineering. And then OXE and Chemi SAC also have websites, I believe. I don't know as much about them, but I know that they also accept freshmen as members as well. Kendra, Abby, do you have anything to add? Okay, wait, hold on. I signed up for at the start of the semester. Is it okay to go to the meetings? I just don't want to. No! Oh, you're so cute. No, you're not intruding at all. We love when all members come to events. We love it. We love seeing new faces. We love not knowing you so that we can get to know you. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, if anyone else in this EYM is just a regular member and you want to become more active, definitely come to all member meetings. We also have committee member applications in the spring. So this is where you can be even more involved in AICHE if you want. So I was a committee member my sophomore year. Kendra and Abby are both committee members now. So that is where like you can even like plan events that AICHE does. You can meet a lot more people. You can make more connections. You can even be a part of like different committees as well. Yeah. Do you have, guys, anything to add?
I'm trying to find the websites for the other two organizations. But yeah, I don't know as much about them.
Yeah, I don't know as much as OXE. OXE does a lot of great tutoring for chemi.
Mhm.
Chemical engineering has a lot of help resources, like a lot. It's a really great tight-knit, I mean, we're not tight-knit, but it's a really great community to have and to be as an incoming sophomore, because I know, like, I knew one person going in my sophomore fall semester as a chemi, but within the first 2 weeks, just by going to office hours and getting added to the group chat, like I knew like 100 people, and it was such a great network for me to study and stuff. So that was really nice. Okay, so when it comes to AP classes in high school, and when it comes to retaking gen eds, if you can test out of that course, I think that is something that you and your advisor has to discuss. And I know that your advisors will usually like recommend you taking those classes anyway, because it may be a little bit different than what you're used to back in high school. But I know that you have to have general chemistry courses or general chemistry credits to be able to apply into the chemi school. Like I think you have to have Calc 1 and Calc 2, right?
Yeah.
To be able to apply.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have at least Calc 1 and Calc 2 and 115 and 116, or any, I know there was a combined version that I know someone has taken. So they took 116 and they took 115 and 116 at the same time, and it was like 132 or something crazy like that. So as long as you feel that you are able to retain the classes, like the class work material, and you have those credits that you can still apply for it, I think that's okay. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think for the chemistry, the reason why your advisor might want you to take it is because if you're applying for chemical engineering, I think they really highly recommend having at least like one class that where you actually did a chem lab in college.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
it's probably best to still take it if your advisor tells you to.
Sorry. All right. Well.